Good evening, friends from the world of media, advertising, and marketing. Myself, Umanath. I am the treasurer of Advertising Club Madras and also the managing editor of medianewsforyou.com. I take pleasure in welcoming you all for another interesting InsightView series. The Madras Advertising Club is taking proactive initiatives to bring in lot many activities, um, particularly focused on the knowledge sessions. And Insight View series is one among the flagship initiatives. In addition to that, we have been doing ad talk almost on a monthly basis, while the Insight View series is a fortnightly webinar series, and ad talk is a physical knowledge session that we have been conducting with leaders from the industry of media, advertising, and marketing. And in addition to that, we have also been conducting brand quiz and another many other sports activities. And it is my pleasure welcoming you for this evening. And today is another special thing based on initially the Inside View series was happening at on Friday 4 to 5 p.m. or 4:30 p.m. And based on request, because Friday is a party mode or weekend mode, so we start kicking in. So many people requested us to move it on a weekday and time wise also to keep it on the after office hours so that they can have a greater participation and they can spend some time to update themselves with the knowledge. While 4 to 4:30 was an odd hour is what the reports came in. So based on that, we have shifted the timing to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m. So hereafter, the Inside View series will be happening between 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Thursdays on a fortnightly basis. So coming to today's Inside View series, we have this is the 24th edition of the Inside View series, and we have a wonderful speaker and a topic which is close to our industry because measurement is everything in today's advertising world, and that's the currency that determines the investments, return on investments, and the whole thing operates on measurement. So the world of media, advertising, and marketing is holistically hooked to this particular aspect. However, in the changing media scenario, the measurement is being debated and a lot of upgrades has been demanded. So this topic definitely is a must follow topic, and we have a wonderful, knowledgeable expert in this field, Vijayalakshmi Ramesh, the Vice President, Strategy South from the IPG Media Brands media agency Lodestar UM. And I request Kavita Srinivasan, the CEO of Voice Communication and the Joint Secretary of Madras Advertising Club, to give an introduction about the today's speaker, Vijayalakshmi Ramesh, and take it forward. Over to you, Kavita.
Thanks, Umanath. Good evening, everyone. It gives me great pleasure in introducing Vijayalakshmi Ramesh. She has more than 2 decades of experience in the field of marketing and advertising. She started her career in market research and then moved on to account planning and currently specializes in media strategy and planning. She has experience in both B2B and B2C clients, and she has worked on a plethora of categories and advertisers. To name a few, she was instrumental in the launch of IKEA in India, She has worked on Landmark Group, IBM. Currently, she's working on Wipro Consumer Care Division and PhonePe, to name a few. It gives me great pleasure in introducing Viji and looking forward for the session. Over to you, Viji.
Thank you, Kavita. Thank you so much. First of all, hi, good evening, everyone, and very happy New Year to all of you. It's been a pleasure being here and talking to you on a topic which is very, very close to my heart. In a bit, I'll tell you why it's so close to my heart. But to begin with, am I audible? I just want to be clear. Let me also
Yes,
share.
yes, you're
Yeah,
audible.
you're audible.
Loud, clear. Please go ahead.
Okay, I'll share my screen so that. Is my screen visible?
Screen is visible, clear. Please go.
Got it. So, as I said, this is a topic I'm very passionate about. And before I kickstart or detailing it out, it would be great if you could just, some of you can type in some of the marketing measurements that you're familiar with, or in terms of, what you have been following, like a North Star in your organization. It could be anything. It could be, MMM. It could be about CTR, VTR, whatever measurement that you're very, very particular about, or your organization is very particular about. If you could just put it in the chat, then we will know that, where are we currently, and that will kind of help us to grade. So I can really see people are saying that BARC is one, GRP, TRP, yes, of course, these are the industry currency. So let's start, take it from here. So let me go on screen show mode. Okay, so as I mentioned, when I started my career 20 years back, the very first project that I have worked on is in this area of measurement, right? So I have worked in James Walter Council, JWT, along with IMRB. We did the first, if I can call it a manual way of arriving at the MMM market mix modeling. Where we had worked on one of the Brookborn brands, and it took us nearly 6 to 8 months just to feed in the raw data into the system. And today, cut to today, we can actually do the same market mix model within a matter of 6 to 8 months, 6 to 8 weeks. So from the time where we were at 6 to 8 months to do one model, today we are at 6 to 8 weeks, and now as we speak, it is becoming more and more faster and quicker, right? So that's the kind of journey. I don't know how many of you have been in this industry, and if you have been following this evolution that is happening in terms of measuring the marketing ROI, then you can really see this changes that have been happening. And if I can call out some of the things that most of us will be familiar with, right, when it comes to measurement. One is this market mix modeling. So if I can take a minute to explain what is the market mix modeling for those who would benefit from this, is that, it's a way of when marketing has got many parameters, whether that is about above the line investment in terms of TV, print, radio, so on and so forth. And also you have below the line investment, which could be in terms of the activation that brands might be doing on ground, or it could be promotions, whether it is a consumer-led promotion or it's about trade-led promotion. All of it, how each of this advertising or overall marketing investment is benefiting the brand, right? When I say benefiting the brand, more in terms of creating saliency for the brand, for one, sure. The second most important thing is how is it helping the brand sales, right? Because at the end of the day, it's about profit and loss and how businesses are flourishing, right? So how is it impacting it? So it is a way to assess your marketing investment onto the brand KPIs, right? That's at the overall level. Then it evolved to become more what you call granular in terms of understanding the media mix. When I say media mix, it's TV, print, digital, and how each of these media components are helping the brand in terms of achieving its objective. So market mix, media mix, and of course, most of the brands will have some way of measuring the brand saliency and awareness in the market in terms of what is the top of mind recall for the brand, what is the spontaneous awareness for the brand, and what is the most consumed brand, so on and so forth. Many brands will have ongoing tracks, month-on-month tracks, or some brands might choose to do, if it's a seasonal brand, they might just do pre and post the campaign that they have been having, right? So these are the common measurement methodologies that you have been following. And as you know, most of this is very what you call data intense. So if you have historical data for about maybe 3 years, which means that monthly data of 36 points that you have, then only one will be able to do this market mix or media mix. Brand track is more of a consumer understanding which can be deployed anytime. It's not a data dependent, but more of a consumer dependent, right? So these are the common measurements that have been there. And as you know, one common thread across all of it is that it's working mostly in terms of the static data points, right? So when I say static data points, you'll be able to understand further when I go on to explain the digital component, how it's changing this landscape. So it was fairly set kind of format one would follow when it comes to marketing measurement. This is, I'm talking about, 15 years back. And these practices still continue. These have not gone away. But what has happened additionally, let me see if I can hide this. Yeah. So additionally, what has happened is we all know that, there is an explosion when it comes to the way the digital landscape has evolved over the last decade or so, right? So on the left-hand side, what you see are the metrics that is already, they are still in practice, but over and above that, because there are so many touch points within the digital, if you were to look at, we have YouTube, which is called as an online video, then you have OTT streaming platforms. We have social platforms, whether it is Facebook or Insta, so on and so forth. And we have multiple other platforms, which are all, part of this overall digital ecosystem, and each of it having its own metrics, right? Whether it is engagement as far as social is concerned, or it is about click-through rate, which is more in terms of the emails that have been sent, or when it comes to video is the, video views are more important. So each of those platforms have their own metrics, right? So there are a lot of metrics that have been followed or tracked by brands based on the investment that they are making in each of this platform. And therefore, additionally, what we also have is something called the MTA, multi-touch attribution, which is more of a digital focus, where we try to understand the investment that have been made on each of these digital platforms, how is it helping the brand, right? So it is really an explosion that has happened as far as metrics are concerned. But what has happened is also the fact that it has become more of a input output kind of a thing. When I say input output, I invest in these platform, and I'm measuring the performance of each of those platforms in terms of its efficiency. So how many view throughs I've got, how many click throughs we have got, how many engagement, how many conversations we have got, right? Which is not actually taking into account. So therefore, how is it helping the brand achieve its goal, whether it is selling more? So the conversation that we have got, or the engagements that we have got, how does it impact the business outcome, right? So that piece in a way is kind of missed. There are brands which are doing it meticulously. I'm not saying nobody is doing it, but by and large, where we are operating currently is in the central piece. Because the other pieces need a lot of investment, they need a lot of data, the left side pieces as well as the right side pieces. But what is available to everyone are the digital metrics, and therefore brands are largely focusing on that, right? While this is happening, this is the real scenario. I mean, we are looking at some parts of the overall marketing ecosystem, and we are measuring each and everything, but it's not really giving us a holistic perspective, right? So this is important to understand, and therefore it has given rise to an evolution in terms of how the marketing metrics should be measured. And there are also other factors which is kind of compounding or adding on to the need for the marketing measurements to evolve, right? Let's first understand what are some of those prompting, what are the factors that are impacting this change, and then we can go through in detail in terms of what are the upcoming practices which many of the companies have started investing in. So the first and foremost, there are actually three things that I would want to call out. The first and foremost is that the businesses today have shifted their focus from measuring just the brand KPIs to the business KPIs. When I say brand KPIs, it's all about is my brand salient? Is my brand the most recalled brand? What is the is my brand considered, among when consumer is making a purchase decision, is it appearing in their consideration list? Of course, these are important factors and brands still follow these metrics, but the focus has shifted from there a lot more onto the end result, which is how is it impacting the business? Okay, is it driving the profit for us? Is it driving the growth for us? And given the climatic condition that we are all in, the businesses, and when budgets are becoming even more tighter, this becomes an important parameter for businesses to demonstrate, and therefore it is up to the CMO to actually demonstrate how the marketing investments are impacting the business KPIs. That is the first shift. The second shift is more in terms of the consumer, where not just in terms of how they have been, the purchase journey with respect to any category has undergone a major change, whether it is about mobile phone or is it about a car, or even if it's about a consumer grocery for that matter, right? So how the path to purchase has shifted tremendously in the last, I would say 4 to 5 years or so, especially after COVID. And not just that, we also have the way in which the consumers are consuming media because of the fragmentation that has happened. There are multiple platforms as opposed to what one would have been exposed to in the last, the 10 years back, right? So there are multiple options as far as the consumer is concerned in terms of the media option that's available to them, right? So that is the second shift. Third shift is more in the area of regulations, privacy measures. Some of it is, regulating bodies which are actually initiating this, the whole GDPR, which we are all aware of. And we have heard about how third-party cookies are going to depreciate, and Google is actually, hanging the sword on our head. So that was the second thing, third thing, which is also impacting the measurement. And of course, people are more aware of what is happening, and, they don't want to share the data with everybody, and therefore they install ad blockers and so on and so forth. That's another factor which is impacting the measurement. So these are the broad shifts, but let's just spend a minute on each of these factors before we move on to the how we are coping with the measurement methods. So the first is, as I said, if I can pull this down. Okay, so the first one is, like I said, in terms of how businesses are shifting their focus from brand or KPIs to the business KPIs, right? So the brand KPIs, like I said, more in terms of brand health scores, lead generation, customer acquisition costs, so on and so forth. And there could be many more such metrics. Business metrics, on the other hand, if you were to see, it is more in the area of as you can see, revenue growth, profit margin, and of course they are looking at market share, because this is again tied down to their value and volume that's happening for the brand, right? So the measurements were happening in a linear fashion. While there are this set of metrics on one hand, then there's the business metrics on the other hand. But what is needed right now is the linkage, which is missing currently between the two, right? So while the set of marketing activities might lead to saliency for the brand, which is the brand health scores, it should eventually lead to the market share. And whenever we measure, are we able to measure it? So I spend X amount of money in media, because of which my top of mind saliency has gone up, but is it leading to increased market share, right? That continuous path is kind of missing at this point in time. Similarly, there's nothing wrong in understanding the conversion rate, which your marketing efforts has given you, but that conversion rate, is it subsequently leading to your revenue growth? So what is right now missing is the linking between the marketing metrics and the business metrics. That is one of the reasons why there is need for an evolution, right? The second, we spoke a bit about the consumer behavior change. So we are all familiar with this model. Most of you would have seen it. What used to be a linear path, right? So for instance, if I'm looking at, I've just given an example of someone who is in the market looking to buy a car, right? And we can understand that we all kind of mimic this journey. So 10 years back, 15 years back, if I want to buy a car, I would probably know, I would have seen an ad on TV, then I walk into the showroom and I engage with the salesperson over there. I get as much information as possible. I might talk to a couple of friends. And then I look at the price factor, and then we kind of decide which brand to go with. Cut to today, we know how we all behave, right? The first thing we do is we pull up the mobile, we look at, we search. There might be some brands that we might be familiar with. Then we talk to, we look at some, look at the brand's website. We might go to some comparison websites, look at the features, then walk into the showroom. We talk to the salesperson. We look at the price, come back again. So a lot of research that happens before, online research happens before we actually end up buying it. So the path is no longer linear. So if it were to be right from, the discovery to the purchase, which was a straight line, now it zigzags between your online and offline. Not just that, it's like it's unique for each and every person. So I might start my journey, from Instagram, where I would have seen something, whereas you might have started your journey somewhere from, online search. So it's a completely different set of path for each one of us, and multiple touch points are involved, and each touch point has a different way in which we measure. So when we look at something like a search, we look at, whether it is organic search or paid search, and therefore how much I've invested in that, so on and so forth. So there are multiple metrics, multiple platforms, multiple journey, right? So just looking at, the start point where someone would have started, which is the organic search, and then ended up purchasing, is that the right metric, or should I look at the last touch point where someone has actually looked at one review site where they got convinced that this particular brand of car is what I want to go after, and therefore should they give credit to that touch point as the most effective one, right? So there's some measurement suggests that last click attribution is the right way to do it, irrespective of where the journey has started. But that not everybody is, convinced by this. So that is another reason why there is a need for us to look at the measurement methods in a different manner. And when it comes to consumer, the other thing that we've spoken about is the again the explosion of the number of platforms, sheer number of media platforms people have access to, and we all know that we spend considerable amount of time in our with our mobile, right? So digital is actually is our life revolves around that, right? Internet and mobile. And we can see over the years how the digital time spent on digital has gone up. It's on an average about 6.5 hours, and across multiple platforms, whether it is, work, or it's about gaming, or watching something, entertainment, or communication, so on and so forth. So, but the caveat here is there is no one measurement. So I might have had some bit of TV, I might have flipped through a newspaper in the morning, but I might have spent considerable amount of time in the digital space. But there is no one source or single source which can track across all the mediums. So we know that BARC is the measurement as far as TV is concerned, which does not give us any information or understanding about my digital behavior. When it comes to digital, we have other metrics. We look at, GWI, we look at ComScore, and those kind of things. So there is no single source data that's available, which is effectively, so it's difficult for the marketeer to follow the journey of the consumer across all the medium, right? So that is the second sub point within the consumer shift. The third, as I mentioned, it's about the regulation and privacy measures. Within that, as I said, one is the cookie depreciation. So right now, the marketers are able to see the journey of the consumer in the digital ecosystem simply because there are cookies which are available. So if I start my journey on YouTube, and then I go somewhere else, and then I go somewhere else, and finally end up in a brand website, then my entire journey is tracked because cookies are available. But we are looking at a scenario where cookies are not going to be there. So the marketers will not be able to understand the journey. So what happens in that case? So how do we measure the efficiency of each of those touch points? And of course, the consumers are also becoming more and more aware, and they don't want to share that information. And this is some data that we have sourced from GWI, and you can see that India is among top 5 countries where more and more people are installing ad block measures, because maybe it is repetitive exposure to a same ad again and again and again. So irritability is one of the reason. Maybe it is not relevant to them and they don't want to be interrupted when they are enjoying watching something. So this is another reason why we will not be able to actually measure if that particular media, a touch point or platform has worked. So all of it has led to, like I said, data sitting in different areas. It is not aggregated in one standard form. So therefore leading to a lot of attribution complexity. And there's no single tool that can give us all the answers in terms of, one is at the overall level, how each of these medium are contributing, and within medium also multiple sub platforms are there. So how is it impacting my business? And therefore there is a need for us to have not just one, maybe multiple ways in which we need to address this, right? So essentially we see 4 large buckets. The first one is more about unified modeling, where, as I mentioned about, there's something called the market mix modeling, which gives us the what do you call, Uber level understanding of how each of this media is contributing, or what is the ROI. Then you have multi-touch attribution, which is more in the digital space. How can we combine both of this so that we have a unified way of measuring, right? So that is the first one. The second is incrementality experiments, which are like a small test and control, which we might all have done at some point in time, which is just to understand how, for instance, if you have a new product launch or you have a new packaging, you just want to see if it would work in the market. You would pick a panel of people, you would expose it to one set of people and see what is the impact, whereas the other set might be exposed to the old packaging itself. So you understand what is the incremental impact of that particular tactic. So that is a smaller kind of tactic which can be still deployed to understand whether the marketing is working or not. The third bucket is some of the newer metrics. So we all know that people search, and that's in many categories. The journey starts with the search, right? So we have the search volume data, and it actually is a very good indication of the brand's mind share, in consumers' mind. So how much people are able to recall the brand is so search is a good indicator of that. And we also have the conversations, which is your social media conversation. So it gives us beyond sentiment analysis. Let's see how it can be leveraged. Third, with the fourth bucket is the one which is now becoming much more engaged or deployed by many of those companies which are progressive when it comes to measurement and analytics and so on and so forth, which is largely led by AI, which is, and machine learning, which helps to deal with larger data sets and kind of, becoming more granular in terms of understanding the pattern that is emerging with the data sets. So these are the large 4 buckets that I want to talk about. The first one I explained to you sometime back, how the MMM and MT are different. MMM is the market mix modeling, where we understand what is the ROI of each of this touch point, whereas MTA, multi-touch attribution, is more in the area of digital alone. But so just I've given an example of a typical output that you get out of media mix modeling. So as I said, if I have, so this requires about 3 years of data for us to do a statistical model. It's a simple, I wouldn't say simple, but it's a regression model which takes about 6 to 8 weeks for us to build. And it tells, for instance, this model, if you see, if we don't do any marketing activity for the brand, this particular brand that we are looking at here, any activity in the last 6 months or so, the brand would still continue to sell about 66% of their sales that happen on a general basis. But when they invest in digital will contribute about 13%, whereas TV would contribute about another 12%. And so this gives them a handle on how the budget should be allocated across each of this medium, right? So the most important the two key medium as far as this brand is concerned, one is digital, the other one is TV. Between them, they contribute close to 25%. So this tells us that if I have limited resources, limited budget, which are the 2 or 3 medium that I should optimize before, and I cannot afford to miss those medium, right? So this is a typical output from a multi-touch attribution. Like I said, it's more in the digital area. As you can see, there are models which give weightage the first touch. So suppose I start the journey, consumer journey in the organic search, then you can see that across multiple touch points, organic search is where is the one which is delivering the most for the brand. And the last touch, which is, where the journey ends, here you can see for a B2B company, this one, the search, organic search as the first touch point is more efficient. But when it comes to actual conversion, it is the offline event. So would you give more weightage to the search, or would you give more weightage to the offline event? It's a question of what the company's priorities are, how much budget they have, and therefore, if I already have enough and more leads in the pipeline, the offline event is the most important thing the brand should focus on. But if I don't have enough leads, then I know that I have to focus more on organic search. So I'm able to I'm able to get leads out of that, right? So this is how the brands will take a call as to which are the critical touch points one should focus on, given the objective, given the budget that they have on hand. So these are the two separate tactics, but brands have found a way of combining these two and look at it in a entirety. I'm going to give you the reason. I mean, this is a simplify. Like I said, this first one is multi-touch attribution. When would you use multi-touch attribution? If you're a brand which is more in the online space, because you have a lot of digital platforms that you use in your media mix, and therefore you should look at multi-touch attribution. If you're an offline brand or you're heavy in the offline spends, then you should look at MMM as a model that you should look at. But ideally, we should look at a combined model, which is MMM and MTA, which not only helps to plan so suppose forecasting is possible. So if I have X budget now, what can I do? Versus if I have X plus Y budget, then how should how should the media mix should look at? So we can optimize campaigns, we can optimize budget, and we can assess the marketing impact. So this is something which is the combined or unified one is the one which is coming up. But not all brands have all data points that they can do. So brands come up with their own or bespoke way of actually assessing it. Here is one example. So as you can see in this example, this is a model that has been done, and you can see it's a full funnel. When I say full funnel, starting from the top of mind awareness all the way to the consideration to the sales volume, you can see how media is impacting, right? So media has a very small direct impact on upper funnel. You can see that it's only about 4%, right? But when we further deep dive with respect to that, it had a higher impact on the mid to lower. This can be unique for a brand. I mean, no two brands are alike. So that's why we need to actually model it for each of the brands to understand what is the impact. In this case, media has been impacting more in the mid to bottom bottom of the funnel. And additionally, what we also see is that awareness to consideration, we see that there is a block. Sorry. There is a block when it comes to awareness to consideration because it's only about 0.9%, right? So it actually tells us that upper funnel KPIs have higher indirect impact. So this one is leading to top of mind and spontaneous awareness. So we have seen media impact on top of the funnel is not so much, but the top of the funnel metrics impact your sales metrics. So which means we need to tighten our investment here so that we are able to convert people. So we know the full journey now. So there is media's impact on which brand metrics are getting impacted, and which are those among those metrics between top of mind, spont, and consideration, which are the metrics that are impacting the sales volume. So it's a full journey that we are looking at in here, right? The second case here we are looking at is again, so we have a different metric for different platforms. So for instance, when there is a what do you call social media activity, we look at word of mouth, we look at buzz, right? And but we also look at consideration as a score. So there are multiple metrics, and what is the interplay between these metrics is what something. So we have looked at here. There is one. This is we have done for a two-wheeler category, and there is a brand that we have assessed it for. There is a two-wheel. So you see the green color, which is for the two-wheeler category, and the line, the number next to it is for the brand. So if the number for the brand is lower than the category, that means it is a weaker area for the brand to address, right? So it actually tells us in the complete journey how it's been happening, and therefore which are the weaker areas we need to invest in or tighten. So this is on the unified model. The second I was talking about is more of the incrementality testing. As I said, this is a smaller module which helps us to assess the impact of specific tactic within a campaign. So for instance, like I said, could be a new product launch. Before we want to launch it, we might want to test market it. So we do it there are multiple ways in which one can do this. There is a test versus control where you have two sets of people. One group is exposed to the new concept, whether the other one is not exposed. So we look at the impact in terms of the recall and the likability and so on and so forth. Similarly, we can look at, it can be done. So we keep the environment same. For instance, if you want to, within LinkedIn, if you have one set of people who want to be exposed to a communication versus other set exposed to a different set of communication, then between the two, which is impacting a lot, right? So to understand those kind of nuances, it can be done at a geo level also. We look at a weaker market and we look at a stronger market, and same piece of communication or same, let's say let's say you want to test out YouTube for that matter. You look at a weak market for the brand and strong market for the brand, and then see what is the impact of YouTube in that market. So test and control, this is called incrementality testing, which kind of helps us to understand in a smaller and less expensive way what's the impact of marketing. Now, the third one, as I said, the newer metrics, which can be leveraged for the brand. One is in terms of share of search. So we know search and Google search trend is, open API that everybody can use. And when we actually look at it as a share of search, very similar to the market share. So if say in a category like let's say deodorant, right? There could be multiple brands. We first look at how many people are talking about each of the brand and look at what is or searching for each of the brand, and look at the overall category search volumes and look at the share for that particular brand, right? So what we have found, or this has been, there are multiple papers that are available in WARC also. You can see that the search share of search very strongly correlated to the market share. So you can see the diagram here. Both the lines. So one is the blue line is the light blue is share of market, the dark blue is the share of search. They pretty much follow the same pattern, right? So if we know the search is going up, that means your market share is likely to go up. If you know the search is falling down, that means market share is going to fall down. So it is actually it's a predictor in some way, and it is available to everybody, and you don't have to invest anything. It's an easy indicator for us to understand. So this is one way people can actually understand what is the mental availability as far as the brand is concerned. Secondly, we all know social conversation is largely used in the sentiment area, where we try to understand what is the sentiment for the brand, right? Whether people are talking negatively about the brand or are they positive towards the brand from the chatter or the conversation that are happening in social media about the brand. And that's how it is largely used. But it has evolved now, and because there are brands that are actually beyond the text, which is the sentiment analysis, where what people are actually typing in. There are also people, there are machine learning and AI which kind of helps to scroll through the even the visual elements like a emoji understanding, or some people actually put video in terms of their feedback. So the mechanism, the algorithm can scroll through all of it and then kind of understand what can be used in for the brand to actually work upon. In fact, there are cases where there are new audience segments that have been identified while scrolling through the audio, video, and the text conversation that are there in the social platform, which has given rise to which is a growth opportunity as far as the brand is concerned. So these are smaller, easily deployable methodologies which can help us to understand, not just understand the impact of marketing, but also to look at newer growth opportunities for the brand. The fourth one, this is new and upcoming. Like I said, AI and machine learning, we know that everybody is talking about it, but what can it really do as far as marketing measurement is concerned, right? So we know that marketers have been inundated with huge data sets because of the proliferation of media, right? Even when we do a MMM or MTA, for us to refresh with the new set of data points, it takes some time. Right, and therefore that is where AI comes in handy, because they can learn on the go and they are able to adjust those models by injecting the new data sets into the model. So therefore your prediction would become a lot more accurate, better insights, efficiency and accuracy, of course, and then the decisions are more strategic and it is not hypothesis, right? So in Western countries, actually, it has been put to use very heavily, especially around some of those milestone events like a Black Friday sales, where a lot of transaction happens in those 1 or 2 days, and therefore they need to make sure that inventory is there for them to actually cater to the audience, and therefore they deploy this to understand from the past how likely to be the demand for each of those categories. And as you can see, in many categories, it's pretty accurate. It's close to 85% and above across multiple categories. So this is still not very prevalent, but there have been niche players in this area who are offering this. So those are the 4 buckets or evolving things that are happening when it comes to measurement. But there are challenges, right? We all know that all of it needs a lot of data. While there is data, but it is not aggregated, and there is no single repository where all data points are available for us to build models, right? And many times we don't have this. This is the case with even some of the big, companies, whether it is FMCG, where you have Nielsen sales data, you have digital metrics, you have brand tracks, but they are not aggregated in one place for all of us to understand the data, mine the data, and see what kind of patterns are emerging, so that we are able to make use of it. And of course, digital team operates in silos, and then you have some offline team, and so each of it, they are not talking to each other. So therefore, the good starting point, if you want to go on the journey, is to aggregate all data points and create a central repository, so that the data needs to be clean, data needs to be harmonized. Therefore the metrics are, like I mentioned, they're not standard metrics. How can we normalize the data so that we are able to look at the pattern that is emerging and build models on top of it? So I've given a checklist of tools that we can look at, and we also know some of the players that have already been offering in each of this area, just for anyone who is interested to take a look at it. And that brings it to the close as far as my session is concerned. So let me know if there are any questions. I can take it. I hope it was informative. Okay. Spontaneous awareness and top of mind awareness, which means so when you ask someone, when it comes to, let's say, a toilet soap, when you buy toilet soap, name 3 brands that come to your mind. So someone might say, Dove, Santur, and Lux. So the spontaneous awareness is without helping you or prompting you with, showing the soap by itself and saying, is this something that you can recall. So without assisting, someone is able to recall the brand name, right? That is spontaneous awareness. And when they mention 3 brands, the first brand that they mention is the one that they can recall the most, which is why it's on top of their mind, right? So it's called top of the mind, the first brand that they recall. Any brand that they recall without any assistance is the spontaneous awareness. And then comes the unaided awareness. It's also called unaided awareness. And then also comes aided awareness, where they say that 3-4 brands, and then they might just show the pack without the brand name and say, do you know this? So they might say that yes, this is Lux, this is whatever. So those are the metrics. Okay, I am just okay, there was one question on how the overlapping of ATL leads get measured, as that gets overlapped with digital leads as people search digitally after seeing. So this is where, like I mentioned, the model helps because there is no way the media effect, what you call a multimedia effect or media multiplier, if we were to say. So someone might have seen it on TV. Because of that, they might have gone online and searched, and they might have also gone to the brand website, and they might have purchased in an eCom site, right? So the question is because they saw first on TV, that is that's the most important touch point one should give weightage to, or they actually purchased it on an eCom site. Should that get the weightage? That we will not be able to answer unless and otherwise we do the model, which will understand, which will tell us what is the weightage in this whole journey, right? So this is the typical question, so when we especially work with digital first brands, right? Like I said, we also work with PhonePe and Wipro of course is FMCG. Digital first brands where the digital investment tends to be higher than the ATL investment, offline investment. The question is, what is offline doing to my business, right? Of course, we will not be able to answer just like that, because I can show GRP, I can show SOV, share of voice, but the impact on the business, I can only show if I have the model in place. Hope that answers. Then there is one more question. Okay, so the factor is really critical to check on the outdoor advertising part, as that is not measured. Yes, you're right. Same with print advertising as well as over TV. Yes, so all of it, like I said, it is. So what happens is when you do a model, whether it is, let's say we are doing a market mix model or even a media mix model, we look at the spends. Okay, so we look at last 36 months data point, 3 years data points, month on month, what is the investment on TV, what is the investment on TV, digital, outdoors, on and so forth. And then we look at last 36 months sales data. So if sales is going in a certain pattern, and if so it's a model that is built. I can't say that, this pattern, that pattern. So the interrelationship between each of these media and how is it really contributing to the sales can be answered only through that model. Otherwise, we will not be able to answer some of the questions. What is the role of outdoor, right, in the media mix? We can say it is a high reach medium. It is a strategically so if there is a, let's say it's a retail business, right, and the store is in a place, and you have a couple of outdoors next to the in that neighborhood or vicinity, it's a strategic location which might, so if someone is going past that area and they see the ad, they might walk into the showroom. That's a possibility, but can we quantify it just like that? No, it's not possible. So that is where it becomes important for us to actually model it to see what is it helps us to quantify the investment. That is the key thing about this modeling. How does MTA, mix of MMM and MTA? Okay, hold on. See that. Take into account the lag of TV and outdoor, as in TV and outdoor So same thing, like I said, the lag effect is also, so for instance, there is something called a half-life or decay effect. You might have heard, right? So when it comes to some of this medium like TV and outdoor, the decay effect is much lower. So if they have seen the ad this month, they will, the ad stock, we also call it as ad stock, they will be able to recall the ad even after, let's say, 2 months or 6 weeks. Whereas when it comes to digital medium, the decay rate is much higher. It is as high as, if I have to put a number, it's around 40%, whereas for the offline medium like TV and print, it is somewhere in the area of 25%. So the decay is very high as far as digital is concerned. And therefore, this model will be able to tell us, like, you cannot afford to be off TV digital medium beyond let's say six weeks, whereas you can afford to be off TV medium for about 8 weeks, simply because the ad stock or the recall ability of that medium is much better compared to digital. So that will only come through the model, and many brands actually evaluate that, because there are times when they may not be able to invest on TV, so they use that period in such a manner that, okay, I'll do one burst in the beginning of the year, then I'll come back around festive time. In between period, I will only use digital because it helps me to sustain the activity over a period of time. Anyway, my decay is slightly lower on TV, and therefore I can afford to live with that. So those calls can be taken when we have a model in place. People will not search the internet for small value products. How can we better brand recall for small? Yes, you are right. So when it comes to FMCG, people will not search, especially if it's a health product, or even in the FMCG area, or people are looking at organic products and so on and so forth. New brands, they go on and search. But when I have a set pattern, for instance, if I'm going to buy a toothpaste, and top of mind is Colgate, and I've been buying Colgate, I'll continue to buy Colgate. I don't find a need to go online and search. But if I have a sensitive tooth, right? I have a pain. I want to find a toothpaste which can help me. So I go online. So in a category where there is a routine purchase, people don't go online search. We cannot use that as a metric. But if it's a new category, or it is like a problem solving kind of a brand, even within the FMCG space, then there is a scope for search and optimizing search. The next question is, how trustworthy, reliable are these methodologies for decision makers? Is it possible that key stakeholders do not want to know the truth of the situation, preferring to believe in the projection in their Excel files? So it is that typically, it is a statistical model. These models are not built just like that. So it's completely a function of the data we input into the model. It's a garbage in, garbage out. How authentic and how reliable these data sets are, the output will be as reliable as the data. So typically, when the analytic companies, and many companies nowadays have their own in-house analytic department as well, when they start working on this model, what they do is, first they aggregate all the data points, they clean the data points, because many a times the data points, there won't be proper explanation as to why certain data points in some way. So they harmonize the data and they meet the key stakeholders. So for instance, if there is a CMO, there is a digital person, there is an offline person, there is a business person, there is a sales person. So they get the data from all these people, right? So they present the data back to them, and they show them, in a manner they can understand that, okay, this month sales will seem to be little, out of the chart. We don't know what is the reason. Then if they are able to explain it, then they say that, okay, because this time we had an offer, that's why the sales was really good. If there is no explanation, maybe there is a data error in it, they will be able to fix the data. So before they go on to actually modeling the data, they clean the data, they harmonize the data, they have a buy-in from the key stakeholders, and then they model it. So once, if the data is right, robust, then your output is reliable, because it is, they will not, the output will be, it will be statistically tested, which means 90%, 95% confidence level, and the error margin is as low as, 3 to 5%. So yeah, that's the accuracy of this. What is the relationship between strategy and performance marketing? Okay, so this is strategy is everywhere. I mean, whether it is a brand strategy or it is about the performance strategy, strategy is for the brand. Okay, performance is important in the sense that there are that is actually another topic by itself, where you have brand scores, which is where brand film, which typically talks about what the brand has to offer and why someone should buy it. Performance is more in terms of actually closing or converting the leads, right? So if someone is in the market looking for some product, and how do we talk to them in a manner that will make them buy the product? Now, many brands, because there is nowadays budgets are limited, and it is important for business to show profit, they focus more on performance, which is what we call as the bottom of the funnel, because it is important for them to make profit, and they will optimize the investment onto the performance marketing. Now, can I just continue to do it? No, because it is like, you're only if someone is aware of your brand, and you are able to immediately convert them into sales opportunity. But we have to create that larger pool of people who get to know about the brand on an ongoing basis. That's why your branding becomes an important thing. When we do branding, which is making people aware of the brand, making people the more people are aware, and therefore more they are convinced, they will consider the brand. Only when they are considering your brand, you will be able to convert through your performance marketing into leads or sales, right? So it is important for the brand to maintain a healthy mix of branding investment, which is a long-term investment, and there is a focus on performance. So typically brands operate in the area of 60 to 40, 60% for brand and 40% for performance, or which is more of a short-term activation that we call. The moment it becomes lopsided, like 20% branding and 80% performance, we can go on for a while, but after a point, it will be very difficult to actually convert or get sales leads, right? So you will have to maintain a healthy balance between branding and performance. Hope that answers. Singapore has implemented a unified measurement system. Is it possible for a similar measurement practice in India? How does it benefit advertisers? There are players, like I said, many companies have their own in-house analytical teams, because many companies, they don't really want to share the data, because many times they also collect first-party data, and they're not willing to share those numbers. So they have their in-house team, analytics team, which kind of works on building this. But there are third-party, companies as well who kind of do this synchronized, which is combining or unifying both MTA and MMM. That is also happening. But if it can be done, nothing like it. I mean, it would be a marketer's dream to have this done, because it answers or solves for most of these questions, right? I mean, typically their question as to why should they do branding? They should be doing only performance, because it can show, sales, right? So those can be easily answered through the model. But like I said, you need to have the data in place for that. If you don't have the right data points and curated data points over a longer period of time, it becomes, when it comes to MTA, you can still look at a 12-month or 1-year data. But when it comes to market mix modeling, MMM, you need at least 36 data points, monthly data points, which means, it's a 3-year data that we are looking at. Are there any more questions? I think that's about it.
That's it,
Yeah.
Vijayalakshmi. And thank you so much. It was a packed, high performance, high intense knowledge session, I should say, because it was loaded with inputs. And this is one of those sessions where it was highly technical, with lot of focus oriented, because there were speakers, experts who has taken us in a lighter way. It is a technical intense because, of course, the subject is of that nature, and so you have taken us through a wonderful starting off with your journey with the JWT for Brook Bond, how it started, and then went into the evolution of marketing landscape, and how the measurement metrics uh, prompted change in measurement metrics shift, and uh, further into the brand KPIs and need for linking marketing metrics and business metrics, an evolving consumer journey getting complex due to the entry of e-commerce and q-commerce factors, and how the fragmented media consumption with touch points increase from zooming from few to many, and complex with the regulatory and privacy measures, with India topping in the ad block scenarios, and how the challenges before the advertisers and the marketers. And you then took us into the new era of, approach to assess the impact effectiveness. Then how the AI powered forecasting has taken, including the neuromarketing factors and predictive modelings, and then into the full flow modeling and its impact. Then you also gave us some affordable evaluation methods to unlock the marketing puzzle, and finally into AI powered forecasting, how it will help us to do the number crunching of robust data, which was time consuming process. Now it is going to be just in matter of few seconds, you will end up getting the spread in front of you. So, and measurement challenges also for, building a centralized data repository. So, I think most of the agencies are getting into it, and only deep pocketed like the kinds of agency networks. That's why the media agency networks, global networks, that's where they become important, because they have the resource to build such infrastructure, and which will transform into a better service for the brands in a longer run. So thank you so much, and you have taken us through the Q&A also, and it was a wonderful, uh, with plenty of takeaways. We have, and also today being the time shift, I was worried how people will respond, because the way the number of, audience, the numbers went up so considerably that because of the topic's nature, as well as they all signed in and really happy the way it has turned out. And I hope it was a wonderful evening loaded with a lot of takeaways. Thank you, Vijay Lakshmi. Looking forward to engaging you in another knowledge forum loaded with lots of information in similar nature. And thank you all. With this, the 24th session of the InsightView series comes to an end. Thanks for your presence. Hope you all had plenty of learning today. Looking forward to welcoming you in another InsightView series in a fortnight's time. And thank you for the team creative partner Presto for the creative services, our associates sponsored Star Vijay, and myself, the Media News for You for the trade media partnership. And thanks to the team in Madras Ad Club for organizing and being after getting it executed. Indra, Vaishnavi, and Lokesh, all of you. Looking forward to engaging you in another wonderful session. Thank you all. Signing off. Thank you, Vijayalakshmi, once again.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity, and it's wonderful talking to you all, and have a great evening. Thank you.
Yes.